Right now, I believe we have approximately 28 kids in the orphanage. Beds for 24. Some of them have sleeping mattresses on the floor. We're all quite content and happy. And here they are homeschooled. We do computer program. It's a Christian organization that has it set up from down south in Mexico. We have 3 teachers, 2 sets of house parents and a helper.
And for the orphanage, well, the orphanage is really not an orphanage. We've had a few orphans, but mostly they're volunteered. They're parents that are struggling, that don't have a home and can't take care of their children. And so they know that they will be cared for properly here and fed and given an opportunity to go to school, because with them, they can't afford their children to go to school. And also when, the orphanage, we work with the children, but we also work with the parents. And so when the parents finally come and get their kids back and they get to take them home, that feels great. That's a job well done, because now the kids are going back home to a safe home, and their parents, a lot of them are comfortable, and they're going to the church, and so all that they were taught here, they can still carry on. All of our workers here are field workers. They've been field workers, and now they've been given an opportunity to learn something else, and we're hoping that we're not just giving them a job, but we're giving them a training so that someday maybe they can open a daycare and make their own finances instead of going in hard work in the fields.
And we are a Christian organization, and since it is the kids are taught God, but the staff also have devotions daily too, because in order to teach about Jesus, they need to learn about Jesus.
The staff that God has provided for us in this place they're just amazing. They love these children like they were their own. You can tell that our staff are not here for the work. They're not here to be paid. They're here to serve the Lord, and they give it all to God. They do the best that they can, because they know they're serving the Lord and not waiting an eye, or this is not a job for them. It's a service.
We have staff housing approximately 3/4 built right now. There's we run out of funding for it, so when North comes in, that will be completed. Down the near road would be building the boys' house for the teen boys back in the orphanage area. And eventually I'd like to build have built a commercial kitchen where it would seat approximately 60 to 100 people, as well as double for a church.
Well, our needs and wants are wants. Of course, the top one would be prayer. And we always need prayer for the ministry, for the staff, for strength, for wisdom, for patience. And we always need volunteers. We need long-term volunteers, which means you're going to stay here for 3 months or more. We're in need of an English administrator so that we can send out newsletters to our donors and the people that are interested in knowing what's happening on a monthly basis. And that's one of the needs that we need for long-term. And we short-term missionaries, that is very helpful for us, for the people to come down here with a group of a school group, a church group, a youth group, a group of men for construction. We always need that. And some people say, well, I'll just send you the money instead of coming down. Well, that's great. We also need the funds, and we've never turned that down, of course. But when you come down here and you see what your money is going into, and you get to meet those kids that you're blessing and giving a safe place for them to be, it changes your way of thinking.
And needs, a lot of the needs there is dry goods, of course, and clothing. Clothing is a big one, because kids grow and wear out, and there's always a need for clothing. Vehicle repair, and vehicles that use a little bit less fuel.
Another thing that we would need, that we really need, is donors. If we don't have God's people to help run the ministry, then these children don't have a place to be. Without your help financially, we can't run this. You can go to our website at gdp.casahogar.com, and you can donate there through PayPal, or there'll be an address there to mail it, if you prefer to mail, Canadian or American. That's all on our website. They can go to our website. There's an application for short-term missionaries that want to come with groups. And there's also an application for long-term missionaries. And there's a phone number where they can reach me at. There's a lot of work for everybody. We're just new. So we're only 11 years of running. And so we still have quite a few buildings to build. So for construction, we always need help. But we only do what we can with the funds that we have. We don't borrow, we're not in debt, and so we totally depend on God and God's people. The volunteers would help out in the kitchen, they would help out with the babies, construction. And also, if you speak the language, you always need help in the school. We're teaching the children here. We do have 3 certified teachers that teach the children, but it's always helpful to have helpers. And so if you speak the language, you could help out in there, help out with the little ones at the orphanage. If you sew, we always need something sewn. There's work or something for everybody to do here.
My name is Cindy Baldwin. It's been a month since I've been here, and of course I never knew what to expect. I felt like I was coming down to help these kids and do what I could to be there for them, but I'm finding that they have helped me and they have blessed me so much. And so I've done laundry, I've helped cook, I even helped make corn tortillas. Yeah, it's been a real blessing for me to be here and to be part of this whole thing, and to watch these kids who are so happy and so well taken care of. It's like they have a second chance at life. And that really has just blessed me immensely. So.
If you're interested in coming down and serving with a group for a week, we'll have a bonfire with the kids. We're going to feed 3 families, and then our church services. During the day, you'll be working. If you're interested and this is touching your heart, and you're looking for a place to come and serve, well, we have a place. Look up our website. The application is there. There's a phone number there. So if you're interested in partnering with us, it'll tell you how to do that, and it'll give you the information on how to come and serve with us.
I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Buenos días. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Good morning. How are you? My name is Mark Downs and my wife Paula, and this is our family here with 3 daughters. We got connected with this ministry that you've seen here on this video a few years back, and it's had a big impact on our lives, and we want to share a little bit about it with you guys this morning.
We originally got connected with this ministry. Several of the U.S. board members for this ministry are from the Delano area, and they stopped on their way through. The founders are from Canada, and they stopped on their way through to head back home for a break. And they gave a presentation, and they brought their adopted son Luis, who was the first member of the daycare and the orphanage. He ended up with a medical condition where he turned carbohydrates into alcohol. Parents couldn't take care of him because they mostly eat carbs in Mexico, lots and lots of carbs. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't afford the diet that he needed to thrive, really. And so he gave like his testimony when he was there, and it just like hit me. Like, I'm like, oh, we had always wanted to take our kids on a missions trip, and I'm like, this is where we're going. We're gonna go down to Mexico. So yeah, that's kind of how we got connected with the ministry. We took our first trip January of 2020, right before COVID hit. And then we've been trying to figure out like, how can we be a part of this ministry ever since. COVID did have a big impact on them because they weren't able to travel, so they can't come back into the United States or Canada to do their, to go from church to church to try to raise funds or bring awareness for their ministry. So We're kind of here. The video showed you a little bit about the ministry itself, but we're going to talk a little bit more about like our experiences and how you can get involved. Your church already is involved actually because you guys send down Christmas gifts last year to the ministry. So if you have any interest at all in, communication to the kids that you sponsored, or coming down on a trip with us, we'd love to have you come down. We've been leading a couple of trips every year now. So we go down usually in May and then at Christmas time to bring down the clothing that this church provides for the ministry.
So this last time we went down, we brought Pam Merrick with us as well. We led a group of 10 people down there. So we're looking to invite others along with us to participate in this. As she mentioned, we try to go down twice a year. At Christmas time, we like to go down and bring the gifts that this church provides. There's also another group that goes down and brings gifts as well. And then we get to participate in the Christmas activities that they do down there. And so here we are heading out on our trip this last time. You can kind of see how we get to participate in the needs of the orphanage with food and preparation, spending time with the kids, just interacting. This church, as she mentioned, has sponsored bringing down clothing gifts for the children. So it's really fun to bring that down and just see the excitement that they have of getting some new gifts. They don't have a lot of, new stuff at all. And so it's a great way to participate in that. It's also kind of fun because when you're down there at Christmas time, this picture on the left shows that the kids will gather up their toys that are in semi good condition, as well as some new sponsored toys that they have. And we will walk around the community and they will hand out gifts to children all over in the community. So we're walking down the streets, they're playing loud music, we're singing Christmas songs, and kids are coming out from doorways and running out to the streets, and we're handing them gifts, and that's really a cool experience. We also like to go down in the middle of the year sometime, May through July, sometime around then, to help out with some of the needs they have. They usually go on a staff retreat, and they'll be gone for 2 or 3 days, at which point we'll take over the orphanage and we'll spend the night there. We'll take care of the kids during the day, we'll help with the meals and whatnot. So that's another exciting opportunity. Have any questions so far?
I have one question.
Sure.
Have the children ever received the Operation Christmas Child boxes ever?
not that I'm aware of.
Wondering how they would be able to get on the list.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Middle of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely forward that on to Claire and see. Oh, sorry. I could bring that up to Claire and ask her like why they haven't or if they'd be interested in that for sure. Yeah.
Sure. You talked about the kids going down the street handing out toys. Mm-hmm. Are they handing out their own toys? Yes, they're handing out their toys that they've received the prior year, either at Christmas or throughout the year from different donations. Yeah.
They're very generous for sure.
Mhm.
It's fun to see.
And you usually see like a group of maybe 3 kids run out from a house, and the older ones will make sure the younger ones are getting a gift before they take one. So yeah, very generous, and very grateful for sure. So Claire and Wayne, as you saw in the videos, the people who run this, they speak English. A few of the kids speak some pretty decent English, so it's nice because they can kind of help interact. But speaking English definitely isn't a requirement for helping out down there. How have you learned how to speak Spanish? So going down there has motivated me to want to learn Spanish. So I've been practicing on an app called Duolingo, and I've been doing that for a little over 2 years now, trying to learn Spanish. Well, can't hurt to try, right? So now we'd like to share with you a little bit about, more specifically about what some of their needs are.
obviously, first and foremost, prayer coverage. With little kids, as Pam experienced, there were some injuries when we were there, some things and that had to be, you know, looked at and made sure that they were okay. And so, just prayer coverage, for finances, for safety, like they mentioned in the video, for the staff, and for Wayne and Claire too, as they're getting, up there in age. They're having, have had their own health issues and things like that to deal with, and they're trying to decide on like how they want to proceed with the future, and maybe training someone in, to kind of take over their duties, in the long term. Some of the things they're looking for, their staff housing. Actually, they finished the bottom half. One of the families has expanded, and they're moving into that house. And then the upper level is enclosed, but it hasn't had any work done on the upper level of the staff housing. They actually started a project so water is one of their biggest expenses down there, other than their staff cost. And so they're trying to figure out ways to conserve some water. And so they're building a sewer system, septic system, to try to reuse their laundry water to be able to wash like their vehicles and everything, because it gets muddy and dirty down there. And so they're looking at maybe doing that. They started that project. They're also the commercial kitchen he mentioned. That's actually a pretty big need. They have just a small little kitchen that they use to feed both the orphanage and the daycare, their meals. And then eventually they need to build a home for the older boys. Having them all in the same house with the older boys and girls was becoming a bit of a problem. And most of the older girls have now moved outside of the orphanage and into part of really Wayne and Claire's house. They have some separate room that they stay in, but they're no longer part of the orphanage. So that kind of helped the problem in the short term. But then on top of the boys' home, they'd like to have that become the school. Right now, they're renting a space at a local church to do school for the kids.
So the picture that we're showing here is they had some plans drawn up about how they might build the boys' home and what that might look like. So they're definitely looking to expand. But as we mentioned in the video, maybe Claire, they don't start building projects until they have the cash on hand. They don't like to borrow and go on debt. And so this is something that has been ongoing for a couple of years now, and they're hoping to get started soon. Yeah. So they're located in Ensenada, Mexico, which is about 2 hours south of California on the coast. And it's a city of about 500,000 people, but they are maybe a half an hour drive outside of the city in a really small kind of rural village. Yeah.
They also are looking for both short-term and long-term missionaries. Short-term, like I said, we are going down twice a year, and this last year we just kind of opened that up to anybody who wants to come along. And so we're looking at leading a group of approximately 10 just for the transportation issue. So we fly into San Diego, and then we have to rent vehicles to get us from San Diego down to Ensenada. And that's kind of been our biggest struggle with finding reliable transportation and economical transportation. They can't come into the United States, and so we have to hire a transport service. With that, we felt really good. I mean, we bring our kids down there. We've never had any issues with safety or anything like that. So if you're interested, like I said, we go usually in May and usually sometime before Christmas to bring down those gifts. They also need in the long term, they need an English teacher. They need an admin, an English speaking admin. They're needing construction workers. They have a lot of construction workers, and I think they are construction projects, and they only have a couple of construction workers right now down there. And then what else did I say? There was one other one.
An accountant. Their accountant of the last 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure how long he's been there, just recently passed away. And so they're looking for someone to fill that position as well.
Another big need that they have are their vans. Most of their vans are pretty old, and they rely on those vans to go pick up the students, the kids that are come to the free daycare. Um, they're looking for several of those transport vans, and then obviously monthly donors, one-time gifts, and purchase items specific to their needs list, like recently like a refrigerator went out and so they needed a new refrigerator, or things like that happen to come up that are just like immediate needs. So
there's plenty of yeah, so they do have electricity, and in fact they are also donating some of their electricity or letting other people tap off of it in the nearby community to help out with that. They've built their own septic system based from YouTube videos, really. We just figured it out. He's pretty ingenious that way. So yeah, they do have to have water brought in, though. All of the water in that area is undrinkable. So that's true for people in the city and outside the city. So it's trucked in, and they have reverse osmosis water that's only for drinking, completely safe. There's no issues with that. And then they have just regular water that they use for laundry and dishes, and they add a little bleach to it. So they have their own washing machines and dryers down there. They're just like
what we'd have at
yeah, like what we'd have at home, you know. Yes.
Yeah.
But they're looking to build a bigger, to get industrial washers and dryers. They have a lot of laundry, obviously, with all those kids. So they're doing laundry. What's that? Yeah. Yes. Yep.
One of the things that they do in the free daycare, since we haven't touched on that a lot, in the free daycare, they bring the kids in. So the kids that come in typically don't have running water of any kind. So they're only getting drinking water. They don't get baths. They don't have sewage. They don't have like modern conveniences at all. So they will bring them in. They feed them. They change their clothes. They give them baths. They wash their clothes, and then they send them home clean. They used to do lice treatments for the kids, but they don't do that anymore because they just go home into that same environment and then bring it back. So they'll occasionally they'll do some mild lice treatment, but we've never had any problems with lice down there for ourselves. The kids sometimes do get it, which the orphanage usually doesn't. But this last time when we were down there, they did. And it happened to be when we were watching them, which added a whole another level of work to that 3 days that we had them by ourselves. So lice treatments.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for us about what it's like down there, how you can help out?
So when we go down in May, the kids in the orphanage are not in school. Usually they're in school, except for during the summertime and at Christmas break. But when we come down, they don't do school that way because their staff is on the retreat as well. So when we go down in May, usually the free daycare is open for a few days. So we spend some time doing work with that during the day. We eat our meals with the kids. We have devotions with the kids every day. And then in the evenings, once the free daycare is closed, we'll go spend our time up at the orphanage with those kids and hang out with them. And it's just kind of a hangout time for the most part, other than helping with meals, or, if they ask us to do something, then, or we could work on construction if you want to. At Christmas time, it's a little bit different because the daycare is closed. And so at Christmas time, we really just get to hang out with those kids, and we do all of whatever they're doing for the Christmas. And every day they have something.
Mm-hmm.
They have groups coming in. They have, their big celebration. They have, different things like that. We also can provide them with things like a pizza party, or we went in when we just went down in May, we did deliver food to 3 families, or 2, um, depending upon. But what else can we do? We can also provide, like, they have an opportunity. You can provide the house parents a night off. So, like, you give them money to go out for dinner, and then we would watch the kids so that they could go do that, something like that. So there's a variety of things that you can do. But during the free daycare, we help cook, we help in the rooms, and we help with cleaning, or whatever other projects that they're working on during the day.
Well, they have 3 or 4 of those vans. They were used to begin with, but they're getting worse. So
In
they're
rough
looking,
shape.
they keep maintaining them, but they're looking to replace them. There was a donation of about 3 vans, I think, from a group here in Minnesota. Just in their community. So we would walk. Oh, sure. Right. Yeah. So the daycare has around 50 kids that are brought in. So the staff will leave early in the morning in those vans, and they'll drive around and pick up the kids from their house and bring them back. And then they will provide the daycare during the day, and then they'll drive them home afterwards. On site in the orphanage, they have 30 or so children that live there full time.
Mhm.
Yes, until they expand. So, good question. So a few of the kids have been abandoned, and there was a family of 3 that they were found on a beach. They'd been living there. They don't know how long they were trying to survive on their own before someone realized they were abandoned, and provided food, and then called the government. And then those are placed in the orphanage, and they can be adopted out at some point. A majority of the kids are there. They're placed there by their parents because their parents can't afford to take care of them. And so their parents come and visit them once a week, and they still maintain custody of the children. So if the parents get back on their feet, they can ask to have their children back. So that's kind of the neat part about it, is they're not, given away, or they're not abandoned, to that end. Oh, sure. Yeah, we were there this last time, and there were 2 new boys there that we had never seen. They had just arrived, and I think about 3 days later, their mom showed up, and they were all in tears, and she brought them back home. She couldn't handle it. So.
Yeah, some of the moms that really have had their kids there long term have stayed on as staff for the free daycare because they were having that same problem. They really wanted to stay connected with their kids, but for the most part, the parents are just allowed to come on Sundays, I think. Just because the kids have this routine during the week with school, and they don't want it to be a disruption for them. One of the other things that I was going to mention related to school was that so the older girls, as I mentioned, have moved kind of into Wayne and Claire's personal home area, and these girls are all basically aging out of the orphanage and had the opportunity maybe to go home, but safe, it wasn't necessarily safe for them to do that, especially for girls, as I don't. Sometimes families that are poor will actually sell their kids into the sex trafficking around the ages of 13 and up, pretty much. So, so they have stayed with Wayne and Claire, but they are needing to further their education. So they're looking for sponsors for them for college education, which is actually a lot cheaper than what we would pay here. I think they can get their complete college education for around $3,000 to $5,000. So. So these are the first ones that have aged out, actually, of their program, because I think the organization's about 11 years old. And so I think 17 is the age that they age out. 17. Yes, so that is the other option that they have if they're not wanting to continue education. They can get work there as staff, which some of them are deciding to do that. But there are definitely a couple of the girls that would really love to go to college and do something more. So probably, I would say yes. If like skills like sewing, I know they had one. Some people donated some sewing machines, and they were given some lessons in that. Even just general skills like cooking. I know that that's one of the things they're trying to do is give them those life skills because in the orphanage, a lot of the stuff is just kind of done for them. The food's mostly cooked for them, things like that. So they want to make sure that before they're sending them out into the world, that they have the life skills that they also need to survive on top of they have, I think they were donated 2 sewing machines. So the other issue that we typically have is space when we go down because we fly. So like at Christmas time, we use those air vacuum seal bags, and we fit them in our suitcases. So sometimes, like the first year we went, they had tennis shoes on their list, and we're like, how are we gonna get tennis shoes down here? The other organization that sends down like their actual like toys list, they actually ship the stuff to San Diego, and then they rent vehicles to get those down there, which can sometimes be a little bit of a problem at the border too if getting stuff across. So yeah, so Mexico has this weird policy, I'm not sure why, that you can't bring used clothes to donate down to there. They have to be new with the tags on. People have tried to, if it's stuff that's yours, that looks like it could be yours, they're not going to question it. But if you're bringing in like baby stuff and there's no baby in your group, you're gonna get your stuff probably taken away at the border. And so everything has to be brand new with tags. And then like I said, then we vacuum seal it and we put it into our suitcases. So depending on how many people go with us on our trip, then that's how many suitcases we kind of have to work with. We all pack in our backpacks, carry-ons, so that we have more room for what we're bringing down at Christmas. Mostly absolutely beautiful. It's pretty temperate, like, so it doesn't get mostly too hot and it doesn't get really too cold. Although when we went in January in the mornings, it was probably 32 degrees, so it was chilly. But then in the afternoons, it warms up to like 60, 70, so it was like pretty perfect. And then when we went in July, that's their hot season. There were a couple of days that were close to 85, 90. But for the most part, it stays right around 75 to 80 degrees during the day, and it's sunny and it's not very humid. So they do have a garden that they just kind of started, but with water being an expense, he's kind of figured out a way to water that through his sewer system. It actually cleans out their water, but they can't really use that on produce. They use that to water like plants and different things, but nothing that they could eat.
It is very dry and dusty though down there. It doesn't rain a lot.
Yeah, and so then when it does rain, it gets really muddy because it doesn't really absorb either into the soil, the type of soil that they have. So no. It's kind of in the mountains, so that's part of the problem. There's a lot of not too far, 45 minutes maybe, only because the roads are bad.
Not far. It's not very many miles.
15, but the roads are terrible.
Yeah, the roads in their area are very bad, very bumpy, and so you drive really slow to go. And so going a short distance takes quite a while. But yes. They do have a website too, and maybe you'll have that link on there as well. And there's information about how you can serve, about how you can give, how you can sponsor a child if you want to be in contact.
Yeah, if you go online, they do have a place on their website where you can do pen pal, basically with, especially if you're sponsoring one of these kids for the Christmas gifts, because we've been sending pictures. And this year we're actually going to do 3 pictures and split up the gifts so that each picture will have one gift on it instead of having to get 3. You can take all 3 if you want to, or you can sponsor 3 different kids, or however you want to do that. But then you have an opportunity if you want to be in communication with those kids. So, and if you don't get any response through that pen pal program, you can talk to Claire directly and go through her to get. It just has to be, they just have to filter content a little bit just to make sure that what's being discussed is appropriate. But Mhm.
Good question.
There. Yeah, so they. And they have, like I said, such a variety of weather there. They pretty much can use anything. They can use winter jackets because they actually get cold when it's that cold. I mean, they're shivering. We were in sweatshirts or t-shirts, and they're like in their little jackets. Um, anything really is of a help to them. They get a little cubby, and everything that they own is in their little cubby. So it's all their clothes, all their toys. Um, they obviously have some extras for, especially for the little kids, um, but as far as the clothing goes, just remember that this is practical and they only have just a very small amount. So, if you're buying socks, these are the practical socks that they got to wear every day, and they do have some propriety issues, like, or is that the right word? Like, anyways, so they don't typically like them to wear tank tops, things with holes in them, things that are too tight or too short, or, just keeping in mind that they're just trying to keep them, pretty modest.
Mhm. Did you have a question?
Did you have a question?
No?
No, we actually live right here in Montrose. We just really connected with the kids a lot. That actually has probably been our biggest impact, is just building that relationship with those kids. And so we just decided as a family that we were going to go down twice a year. But now we've opened that up to anybody who wants to come down with us, to try to just bring awareness, but also give other people opportunities, because sometimes there aren't a lot of opportunities that anybody could go, just on these mission trips. A lot of times they're geared towards the youth, or they're geared towards specific groups of people. So
And they do have some other organizations that help out throughout the year. Um, and there's also some organizations that help out around Christmas time for some of the other needs. But as Paula mentioned, since COVID hit, they've had a hard time reaching out and getting people to sponsor them. So some of that support is dwindling. And so that's, I think we heard last month that, I think it was this last month, that they weren't able to pay the staff again. This has happened in the past. They've got some very gracious staff that have stuck with them through the hard times, but they are looking to get more sponsorship and donations to help just run the facility, the day-to-day operations.
this is just through individual donors. So it costs them, I'm going to give you some numbers. It costs them about $15,000 a month to run the orphanage. And a good chunk of that is in their staff. Their staff, it seems like a lot of money, but they actually are getting between $250 a month to $500 a month, and they are working probably at least 50 to 60 hours a week. Some do, but most don't. And not most of the ones that work in the daycare do not stay on site. The teachers stay on site, and of course the staff housing, house parents for the orphanage they stay there, but they have two couples, so they rotate who stays.
Yeah. So yes, it's a daily thing, and in fact, every day that you are there, you'll get to experience that they lead worship. The kids actually lead the worship every morning, so there's a devotion every morning. Sometimes there's two, depending on what day of the week it is, and that's also incorporated into their homeschooling as well. So it's a very Christ-centered organization.
Yeah, she said that they definitely do, especially the ones that get to go home. I mean, it's harder for them when they're only seeing their parents once a week. All of their Sunday church services are open to all of their parents to come and be participate, and they'd like to expand that actually to the whole community, which is why they want to build the bigger the commercial kitchen that has seating for 150 people, because they would really like to just actually start an actual church that's open to the community as well for Sunday services. Oh.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but the actual name, the name of the organization means God will provide. So it's if it's translated, it literally means God will provide. So I think that, you know, one of the other things she talked about, like when we first went, as far as safety goes, for example, everyone in the community basically knows them because they have a lot of these outreach programs and different things where they bring food, they bring these toys, they bring different things into the community. And so, whatever crime there may be, I mean, there's obviously everywhere, drug issues or different things like that. Everybody kind of leaves them alone. They actually had a really cool story of a drug addict, a drug dealer who lived right across the street, and he was like the biggest and one in the area. And one day he was standing at the end of their driveway, and he was just kind of awkwardly standing there. And so she's like, "Can I help you?" And he's like, "No." She's like, "Well, can I give you a hug and pray for you?" And he's like, maybe. And so then she did. And then the next day he came back over and he said, "I need to get clean and turn my life around. And I need you to take my kids." And she did. And he went into treatment and he became a Christian. And he's actually a pastor now, got his kids back. And it was just the really coolest story of the impact that they have on that community. Like, people just kind of leave, they know they're doing good. And so they're not really a target for anything, like they're kind of protected almost. Oh, yeah.
So it's a really poor farming community in the area. So the parents are out in the field working during the day, and they can't afford to stay home and take care of the kids, and they can't afford to put their kids into any kind of daycare. So before, what they would do is they would either drug their children or somehow restrain them so they can't go anywhere or do anything while the parents are gone, and the kids would be home by themselves during the day. And so they started this daycare so that these kids could be somewhere safe and be taken care of during the day. So it is a very poor community.
I think statistically, they were talking about that they make about $3 a day, and daycare per kid costs like $1 a day. So they're really deciding between, can I feed my kid or can I put them in daycare, because I can't really do both. So yeah, it is most of the people who come there are farmers, so they work in the area of fields. There's a field right next door. We went to one of the workers' houses. The landlord let them live in this building. impacts on me is the living conditions of the families when we bring food to them. Um, you know, sometimes they live in campers, you know, and their whole family is in that little camper, you know, like they got 5 people in a little, you know, tiny little space and no running water. And, you know, they may have electricity, they may have a little refrigerator and a hot plate or something. But it's not, you know, what we're used to. And so it's very humbling for them to let us, you know, come into their homes and see what they, you know, how they live. And they're very proud and happy of these homes, you know, that they were actually able to afford one. So.
So as I mentioned, they have you know, a daily devotion. They have a pastor that lives right across the road from them, who they're very very close with, and he comes and actually gives a message um, every Sunday. And so Christ is very much part of the conversation. It's a part of the education. It's very much a part of their daily life.
Oh, we haven't.
Mhm.
They have they actually all get Bibles through another organization. So I think every month that organization brings, like, I think they bring so much food and then they bring like 3 Bibles every month. So then each of the kids kind of rotate through those. And then as far as the school goes, I haven't actually been there because it's at the church. So we don't typically go into the school while they're doing their schooling. So I'm not sure what the visuals are there. I know, like, yeah, everything is very Christ centered in conversation and stuff. I'm not sure if I.
The Bibles.
You can send those things. As long as they're small, we could fit those in. Yeah, for sure. Mhm. Yeah, no, that's good. Oh,
Sure.
yeah, that would be a great idea. Yeah, I'm a visual person, so I'm right with you there. I like to envision, you know. Yeah, I agree. It's good.
Okay, my week. It was great. It was a really good experience overall. We did not have that pig that is in that video, which was nice. um, there was a dog, though, honey's friend. But I guess my takeaway from the experience was that the kids were wonderful. The church services they participated in on every morning, first thing in the morning, they were very attentive to the sermons. They had their Bibles, they opened them, they read passages from them. They participated in the music. When they had their meals, they had a meal prayer that they all participated in. One of them led and the rest of them followed. They did that at all their meals. kids at the orphanage, for being a big group of kids, it was amazing how well they all got along. They were like a big family. The older kids took care of the younger kids. They would help them with their hair, with dressing, with anything they needed help with. They were very responsible kids, but they did like to play too. When they had their free time, they would like to have a good time like any child would. But they were very grown-up kids. That was really noticeable in the church services. They were very attentive to the sermons. Oh, the cleaning. That orphanage was clean and neat and orderly, and they had all their possessions put away. They had their beds made up. The meals, they had to get everything ready for the meals, and after the meal was done, they cleared everything. The floors were swept every day, every meal. No, I don't think they washed
The
them.
old-
The
sometimes
older
the
ones
older
helped
kids
with it. I got to help wash dishes
Mhm.
more than once, and we're talking a lot of dishes.
Right.
No dishwashers, but they did have a lot of different things to do. They seemed to do them willingly. I didn't ever hear anybody reminding them of what they had to do. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were so good about the few toys that, I mean, and games they were playing with, they were sharing them with each other, and they were allowing others to participate. I didn't see a lot of fighting amongst the kids at all. It was kind of amazing. Well, they did around the house. I mean, yeah. I mean, right. Yeah. I mean, I initially thought I might be a tad old for this mission trip, but Mark's aunts came along, and they were not as old as me, but not a whole lot younger. So that was kind of nice, because otherwise it was a much younger group that was with our group, but didn't seem to make that much difference. But the travel was pretty pleasant. I mean, it wasn't any, I didn't mind it. I mean, once we got close, it was a little bit much because the roads were so bad.
Yes. We went to eat.
Well, we went out to eat, and we went to deliver those meals to those two families. Oh, and we went to the Bufadora, which is the open air market. They were good. It's funny that you should ask. And they were really good. You know, typical Mexican food. A lot of tortillas, a lot of beans, they had eggs a lot, didn't they? It seems like delicious oatmeal in the morning. I mean, they had a variety of things. It was all very delicious. Yeah,
right.
except a lot of hot dogs. Yes, and you saw one of the pictures where we were sorting beans. But that's what it was. Pinto beans, right?
Mhm.
It took hours to sort through those.
How about speaking, Pam, to the language barrier?
I don't know any Spanish. So thinking that would be a big problem, but it wasn't nearly as much of a problem as I thought. In fact, a lot of the little kids kind of enjoyed having me speak English, and would ask me what different words were in English, and then they would teach me that same word in Spanish. So it was kind of nice that way. It wasn't really a big barrier, I didn't think. I thought it might be more. I mean, kids like to play. And if you join them in a game, it doesn't really matter the language.
And did you feel safe down there?
I don't know, maybe. There were some pretty young kids. There was one potty training, so he couldn't have been very old. No, that was the youngest. So a toddler. Well, how old was he?
Yeah, he's just over a year.
Yeah, so over a year,
Yeah.
as young as that.
The youngest one there, he's about a year, and he was an infant last time we were there. But they
So-
typically are older than that.
They are, but there were
Yeah.
some that were pretty young, like girls, 4 and 3 and 4.
I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know.
time here. Oh, thank you very much. There's an offering plate out over here if anyone would like to give an offering to this awesome ministry here today. Also, if you don't have an offering today but would like to give an offering, these guys live 2 doors down from me, so you can always give it to me and I'll hand it over. Otherwise, you can go to their website, or like Catherine said before, if you go to our website at stjohnsbuffalo.org and go to Ministries, it'll give you a drop-down box which will say Missions, and then when you go to the missions, then it'll have every mission that we support, including GDP as well. So there's lots of different ways to give. If you have any more questions, like I said, you can contact me, and I can get a hold of Mark and Paula for you, or if you know where I live, they're 2 doors down from me. So anyway, we're so excited about this ministry because we really love Mark and Paula and their family, and we get a chance to see just how excited they are, and the good things that they and their teams are doing for these kids. So we just pray for them and pray that all of us will get involved in one way or the other. Would one of you want to lead us in a closing prayer?
If you can pray with us. Thank you, Father, for this opportunity just to share what you are doing in other parts of the world. And we just pray that you would touch hearts and encourage each one here to be willing to participate, to give or pray or donate. Lord, we thank you for all the donations that this church gives. We appreciate their generosity and the blessing that it is to the children. But we thank you for this time, Lord, and we just thank you that you are alive and working in all parts of the world, and we give you the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.